Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I think you know by now that the title of this podcast is The Journey, and we all have one. They're different, of course, but it is our journey. So we just titled it The Journey. Now I'm going to do something that I learned at Tuskegee, and you'll catch it. He has a passion for causes. He is an effective advocate. He has the skills. They were evidenced early on when he persuaded, this I love, the University of Miami School of Law to admit him before even taking the law school admission test. Now that's history. His argument that it was unfair to punish him for not being able to take a test that was not administered in the jungles of Vietnam while he fought for his country. I have sitting before me the Honorable H.T Smith. Good morning. H.T., I call you Tony.
Right.
Why do I call you Tony? Let's get that out.
That was my nickname as a young boy. You know, we go back
Yes.
50, 60 years.
Yes.
And that was my nickname at the time. Came from my grandmother,
Yes.
who raised me while my mother was in the hospital for a couple of years. Wow. And so it stuck. So when people say Tony, I know they knew me when I was a child.
Yes. I'm so happy. Again, I don't think you would know. I have on my glasses, and I might have to take them off for a minute because the tears are coming. When you got here, you said, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm here. And we talked a bit about our children.
Right.
And the stories that we have to tell, the narratives that we must change and write ourselves. So this is going to be one of the best. Believe it or not, I've been trying to get you for a long time to come and sit here. Our children will learn our history, and it will be written by us. So Tony, let's get started. After attending FAMU, you joined the United States Army. How was it spending 400 days in the jungles of Vietnam? What was it like being a black second lieutenant in the United States Army?
Well, first of all, obviously, like most people, I was very afraid that
Yes.
I was going to be killed or maimed at the age of 22. And while I had a lot of knowledge at the age of 22 and a lot of training, what I did not have was wisdom. But what I realized was that there were people in my unit that I was the commander of,
Yes.
who had special talents. And the number one criterion for being a good leader and for staying alive in Vietnam is to listen. And so I listened to sergeants who had been in the military for 40 years and who had been in 2 or 3 tours of duty in Vietnam. I listened to people who knew how to call in airstrikes to protect us when we were being attacked.
Yes.
I listened to people who talked about and knew and were experts in areas of logistics. And so Vietnam and war it's a horrible thing, but it either makes you or it breaks you. That's why we go out on the highways and byways of Miami-Dade County. We see a lot of people who are homeless or who have mental problems. They were military people, and it broke them. And we have a responsibility to take care of them as they tried to take care of us with their service. So Vietnam experience for 400 days, I wasn't just responsible for my life. As a lieutenant in charge of a company, I was responsible for their lives too. And so it really made me, forced me to grow up and have seriousness of purpose. I was an excellent student. Well, I was a smart student, but I was a bad student. Okay? In other words, I majored in math.
Yes.
I minored in physics. Wow. But doing homework and special projects, I wasn't serious. Vietnam gave me seriousness of purpose because I realized that in the snap of a finger, my life could be over. Right. And I promised God if he would spare my life for me to come back, that I would be serious and I would serve. I would serve my people, I would serve my community, I would serve my country. and I've tried to do that.
And you have done that, and you've done an excellent job. I do have questions to ask you, but what I want you to talk to me about was how I introduced you when you fought your way, and I knew the story. A lot of kids don't know it, but I knew the story because remember now, you are with my youngest brother, and we talked about Tony. We talked about Harold Long. We talked about Howard Gary. We talked about all of you all who were out there trying to do what we were put on this earth, I believe, to do. So I want to know a little bit more about that journey at University of Miami and how you got in.
Well, first of all, we need a little context.
Okay, go right
Like
ahead.
most people our age, I was born in a Christian hospital, which was a hospital for colored over town.
Yes.
The street I played on as a little kid was called Bucket of Blood, and it earned that nickname.
Familiar.
From kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, it was solidly segregated schools. And as we discussed before we came on the air,
Yes.
most of my books and things were pages cut out and people written on them because they came from Coral Gables High School, and we had them in secondly. And then when I applied for college, the only college that would accept me was historically black Florida A&M University. Now, when I graduated, my America said for the first time I could go to the front of the line because I had been in the back of the line all my
Yes.
life. And I ran to the front of the line, and it was a beeline to Vietnam. So now I can go to the front of the line
Yes,
when
now.
it's time to fight and die. So when I came back from Vietnam, I had made a commitment that I wasn't going to be told no again in terms of what my rights and my opportunities. So I went out, got back from Vietnam and learned that the University of Miami Law School was admitting its first class of black law students. I couldn't believe that. I said, I've only been gone 2 years. He said, this is the class. So I said, I'm going to be in the class. I drove out to the law school. I went to the dean's office, and I told the dean's secretary that I want to see the dean. I want to go to law school. She said, well, the application for next year is over there. I said, no, for this year. Well, she said, well, school starts in a couple of weeks. I said, that's not my problem. I want to see the dean. So she said, I'm sorry, you don't have an appointment, and the dean's busy. Well, there was only one way in and one way out. So I said, he's got to come out sometime. So I sat there for a couple of hours. The dean came out and said to his secretary, let me see his file. She said, he doesn't have a file.
Doesn't have one.
He said, well, what was your score on the LSAT? I had never heard of LSAT, but I had enough sense not to let the dean know. So I said, Dean, would you please be a gentleman, invite me into the office,
Oh,
and let's sit
my.
down and talk. He said, oh yeah, sure, come on in. He said, well, the law school admission test score is essential. So law school admission test, that's
That's
the
what
LSAT.
it is, right?
So I told him my life story about segregation and about not being able to try on the clothes in stores.
That's right, without
Right, you have to
and the
keep-
shoes,
and
remember?
the shoes, couldn't try on the
Couldn't
shoes.
try them on.
And all the no's that I've got only
Yes.
because of the color of my skin.
Yes.
And I told him, I just spent 400 days in Vietnam fighting for his freedom and the freedom of everybody in this law school. And the law school admission test was given and made available to the draft dodgers who are in this
Exactly.
class.
Exactly.
And I am not going to be told no. And Dean, I respect you, but just as I was prepared to give my life for my country, I'm prepared now to give my life for me. And when law school starts, I'm going to be in the first class, in the first row, in the first seat. And then I'll probably go to jail, but when I get out, I'm going to be right back there. And the dean said, I never heard it put like that. And so over the next 5 hours till late at night, maybe around midnight, we signed a contract saying that I would be admitted conditionally, take the next law school admission test, and I had to pass. I had to give them my application, my official transcript from FAMU, letters of recommendation, and I had to write a check. Well, if they had cashed the check right away, it would have bounced. It would have bounced, but I knew that, it would take a while, and so I passed the LSAT, and the rest was history. As a matter of fact, one of the things that really got him, the first month of law school, I wrote an article in the school newspaper about how racist the school was. And he said, how could you write that? I said, well, there's no black administrators, there's no black professors, there's no black staff. If I want to see another black person other than the few black classmates, I have to wait until night when the cleaning crew comes.
Yes.
I said, now, don't you want me to use my law degree
Oh,
to fight for my
Tony.
people? He says, okay. And so it was being the first, as you know, is always kind of difficult. But fortunately, there was 7 of us in the daytime and Henry Latimer at night. And so we kind of lifted each other up, supported each other. We all made it through.
Yes.
We all passed the bar the first time. And we all, I think, in my judgment, have made significant contributions. George Knox, first black city
Yes,
attorney.
yes.
Jim Burke, both in the legislature and the county commission.
Yes.
Howard Johnson, chief judge in Atlanta. Henry Latimer was the first managing partner of a white law firm in the state of Florida, and was president-elected of Florida Bar until he was killed in an accident and never assumed the position. But we all made Bill Johnson, circuit court judge now for about 30 years. So we all were finally given an opportunity. We showed that we deserved it because, they say, as a matter of fact, I ran for president of the student body. They said, well, why should we elect a person who be an affirmative action student? I said, well, look, affirmative action didn't pass those tests. That was Harold Smith. Affirmative action didn't win the moot court. That was Harold Smith. So don't vote for affirmative action. Vote for Harold Smith because he's the one that did it. And so it was a tremendously good experience. And having been to Vietnam, the things I had to face in law school were nothing.
I just have to sit here and listen to you. Much of what you've stated, I know. But can you imagine children coming through now being told that there are certain parts of their history that they should not be taught because it might make someone else feel poorly? Well, as you said too, the professor or the dean or whatever, that's not my problem.
Right. And not only that, there are going to be challenges for those of us whose skin has been kissed by nature's sun. But we also want them to know the history, to know that the problems that we face were not as difficult as our parents, and the problems that they're facing is not as difficult as ours. And if we can overcome, if our parents can overcome, they too can not just survive, but succeed with a consistent commitment to excellence.
Wow. We need at least a week to just sit and talk and train our children to know that they can be successful. It is not over. It might appear, as Dr. King would say, dark days, but we are here to shine the light on these days, and we will move forward. I am very pleased to hear that. So for the last 49 years, you have practiced as a trial lawyer in Miami, earning awards such as the Top Trial Lawyers of 2017, and you were inducted into the Legal Legends of Miami-Dade County, and you were honored by this school board member not too long ago at one of our school board meetings, and everyone was very happy to see you there. So how does that feel for a young man that went to schools, as you said, with secondhand facilities, secondhand equipment, and hand-me-down books? Talk to me a little bit about those books. I remember those books, and I'm going to tell you this quickly. At the end of the school year, we would see the stores and distribution will come in the trucks, and they would just dump the books out there. And the students had to go through and find the best of the lot.
Right.
So talk to me about your history with that and how you felt when you saw those books.
Well, at the time, to be honest with you, I did not feel offended because as a student, I didn't understand what was going on, and no one explained it to me. Basically, my teachers, although they were underpaid, they loved us.
Yes.
They encouraged us.
Yes.
They inspired us. They knew us, and they knew our family. And so they invested in themselves into us. Just like a stock. You say, well, you want to buy some stock.
Yes.
I see in this young man things that he doesn't see, and I'm going to buy stock in him by investing in him,
yes.
and teaching him and encouraging him. And so, I used to joke about the fact that we are an annex of Coral Gables High because all of our books came hand-me-down for Coral Gables High. But our teachers didn't make excuses. And they did not allow us to make excuses. They basically told us that we could succeed. And they taught us, and they encouraged us, and they gave us opportunities to be good. But in addition to that, and one of the things I've always admired about you, Brian Stevens, who I say is the Thurgood Marshall of our time, talks about the importance of proximity in service. And you are there with the children. You go to the schools, you go to the events. They can see you, they can touch you, the families. And so what I've tried to do in my service as a lawyer is to be present and to be proximate. I mean, obviously we need people to send money from a distance. We need people to serve from a distance. But it's much more effective when students, because we're talking about children now, can see the exemplary excellence of people whose skin has been touched by nature's sun, just like them, just like them. And they actually say, you know, we mention, everybody, all of us are mentioning Judge and soon to be Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson.
That's right.
You know, when he was, when Johnny Brown, her father, was lawyer for the school board, I was getting work with the school board. I was getting some legal work. And so I got a chance to work with him. And he and I would brag about our daughters. My daughter is in the debate team. Well, my daughter's in the dance team. My daughter's dancing for the Harlem Dance Group. And my daughter's going to go to Harvard. Whoa. My daughter's going to, well, because I told my daughters went to FAMU. My daughter told me, said, well, Daddy, I know how you feel about this black stuff, but I want to go, I forgot which school she said. I said, sweetheart, I love you. Give me a hug, and you can go anywhere you want to, but I'm sending my money to FAMU. So, because, and I did that only because I wanted her, knowing that she would face double discrimination being black and a woman. I wanted her to find out who she was in this world. And I wanted her at an early age to be affirmed about the intellect she had, about the dreams and the visions. And I told her when she went to FAMU, when she told me what her dream was, to be an entrepreneur, my youngest daughter, and I said, now, people are going to tell you why you cannot do it. And I want you to know that other people's opinion about your dreams is none of your business.
None of it.
So you just go ahead and reach for the stars and know Daddy's going to be there.
Amen.
I can't do it for you, but I'll be there to support you. And so with regard to my service coming out of the segregated school system, I wanted to make sure, because when I went to law school, I had never met a black lawyer, a black judge. I wanted to make sure, to the extent that I could help, that there would be a lot of kids and a lot of people in our community who wouldn't be able to say that because they would see me.
Amen.
Because I speak at a lot of schools, not just in Black History Month either. Elementary schools, you know, now, you know, because I'm used to when I went to school, you know, we had elementary, we had high school. Well, now we got, you know, K to 8, et cetera, all around the town. So this has been the greatest feeling of satisfaction I've had has been my work with young people in the school system, and as you know, Gwen Cherry Park, young people at Gwen Cherry Park, where we raised $5 million privately and built a youth center for the kids in that area and donated it to the county. I don't know if anybody else has ever built something with private funds and donated to the county. Usually they say, you give us the money and we'd build it. And this is the 25th year.
But you're HT.
Well,
let me say
so
this
much.
to you. You know, we have cue cards and all of that. You just took one of my questions, but I'm going to let you expound on that. Why? Because during the time you were doing that, I was the principal over at the Lily Carmichael Evans Elementary School, and they were, do you know him? I said, yes, I know him. I know him well. They said, is he going to be able to do that? I said, that's HT. So tell me how that came about.
Yes, well, after we ended the Boycott Miami campaign, I was going around to various communities and talking to the people in the community about the opportunities in terms of scholarships and fellowships and internships and job opportunities that were going to be made available. Well, when I went to Gwen Cherry Park, I was asked by the community to come to Gwen Cherry Park. This was in 1993. And I got out there, and there was no inside. There was no, so we had to be up on this big tree, and it was hot. And I said, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. So I got with some other people, and we began to lobby the county commission, because it was a county park, to build a youth center. And after about 2 years, we did that until 95. And one day I was sitting at home, and I said, well, H.T., why don't you do it? And so I got with a Hispanic lawyer, because they were talking about diversity. So I got with a Hispanic lawyer named Hank Adorner and a white lawyer named Dean Colson. And I said, you know, you all been talking about diversity. It's more than words. So what I want you all to do is to help me to raise money, and we're going to build a youth center at Gwen Cherry Park, and we're going to give it to the county. But we don't want the county involved in it at all. The county's got to agree to let us select the contractors, the subcontractors, and build it the way we want to build it, and then we'll give it to them. We don't want anything from them. And so when we went to the county, you should see the way they were just laughing. Like, oh, yeah, right. You don't want any money from the county? No. You don't want any in-kind services? No. You don't want any equipment? No. We got this. And so we went to the National Football League and got $1 million.
Wow.
Because the National Football League comes to town, and we told them, hey, you taking all the money out of the community and leaving.
That's true. That is true.
So you need something that's objective, something that people can see and feel.
Yes.
Not plans. And so they gave $1 million. That's why it's called the NFL Yet Center, because it's like they bought the naming rights. The good thing about it is because we had the NFL behind it, it gave us instant credibility with other major businesses.
Okay.
And so we raised $5 million. We built the center. Main thing, the idea was to use sports, athletics, to attract the kids in, but require academics. So the first thing we did, AmeriCorps gave us some volunteers who, when the students come after school, they would help them with their homework. And so if they did homework, we had 50 computers, we had computer work, we had a library and reading, and we required that before you could play, organized play, that you had to do either homework or you had to read or do a computer class, and then we give you an armband. The armband let the coaches for the cheerleaders, the dancers, the football players, whatever, know, okay, they can play. No armband,
no play.
No play. And at first there was pushback, but then it became the culture. That's the way it was done.
Yes.
And so we like things like robotics. We sent kids out to San Diego for robotics contests. When we built the center, the kids didn't even know what robotics were. They came in fit. There was like 200 and some students from around the country. We had students come in 5th and 6th, which is,
excellent.
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 Now, obviously, football. Football is the king of our community.
Yes.
We've won 6 national championships. As a matter of fact, when the National Football League came here for the last time, we built a $1.5 million synthetic field, like the pro football fields, that you can play football, soccer, and lacrosse on. And the Steve Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, and the head of the National Football League was here. And I said, I want you to know that we build champions here. We build champions in the school, in the community, and we definitely in football. We won 6 national championships. That's as many as the New England Patriots won. So I just want y'all to know that y'all at championship land. And so this has been wonderful. And as I said, this is the 25th year. We added on 5,000 square feet. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Easter, I had a train ride on Brightline with the head of the director of parks, and we're going to add things like conflict resolution, citizenship, and third one is conflict resolution, citizenship, and the third one is literacy, financial literacy.
All of them are great. I I proffered an item passed unanimously on the financial piece, and of course I proffered the first item on working with our children with the ability to, to maintain their decorum.
Absolutely.
And that's good. I want to know more about that from you after we finish this and get a chance to talk. But I want you to talk just little bit, a little bit about the boycott. I could not let you go without asking about that.
Yeah, well, from 1985, I learned about the great Nelson Mandela. And this is why we got to tell our stories. I didn't learn anything about Mandela when I was in high school. I didn't learn anything about Mandela much in college, although I did read a little bit. And heard about the Free South Africa movement, and I said, we need to start that here in Miami too. And we kept talking. I said, well, HT, you got to lead.
You got to do it.
So I led the Free South Africa movement in Miami from 1986 until Mandela was released, February 11th of 1990. Well, from February, March, April, May, June, Mandela came to the United States to thank institutions, schools, and organizations and people who had helped. As we know, our government did not.
Not at all.
At all. So when Mandela came to Miami in June, he thanked countries that had helped him, Libya, Cuba, and others. And our Cuban-American brothers and sisters just went wild.
Sure did.
And basically snubbed Nelson Mandela and said he'd have to apologize. And Mandela said, I'm not apologizing for those who helped me. And so he was snubbed, and June 28th of 1990. As a matter of fact, that day I was at the Miami Beach Convention Center, and they called my name out as one of the people who had been involved in the struggle. And I was on the stage, but about 5 rows back. And when they called my name, I waved my hand, and Mandela summoned me. When I got ready to walk, because of the security, they tried to stop me, and I broke through till I got to the front. And I went to shake his hand. And he grabbed me and hugged me. And at that moment, I felt like I had been kissed by history. It was like my feet were not on the ground. It was wonderful. And he said, thank you for being with us in our darkest days. We will never forget you. And then we said, people started asking, what's wrong with Miami? Because Nelson Mandela went to Detroit and to Oakland and to D.C. and to Atlanta.
I remember.
And he was hailed as a hero. He spoke to both the Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate. One of 4 people who had done that to that time. He said, and then he come to Miami. Well, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong?
So basically, people started saying, if Mandela's not welcome, we don't feel welcome. And out of that, we started the Boycott Miami campaign. It lasted for 1,000 days, 1. It cost over $100 million worth of business, 2. But out of that, and no black convention, no black organization scheduled a convention during that 1,000 days. And out of that grew the first black-owned convention quality hotel and an organization that began to get blacks involved in hotel ownership called NABHOOD.
I remember that.
National Association of Black Hotel Owners, Operators, and Developers. Now, today, there's 771 hotels with black ownership. Was a hotel over Miami Beach, Hilton over Miami Beach, black owned. Bob Johnson, who owned BET, has 200 hotels. His ex-wife, Sheila Johnson, has 6 of the finest resorts in the country. So the Boycott Miami campaign provided jobs and business opportunities and mentoring opportunities and just things that have lasted to this day. And people have to understand, the struggle is not going to end.
It's not over. It's never going to end.
It's never going to end.
No.
When we look at the progress we made, the mistakes we made, and we keep moving forward. And what we want to tell the young people is, we're going to pass the baton to you. You're going to be better educated and better situated, and we expect you to take us to a higher level in this righteous struggle for racial justice.
That's a great way to end this conversation. as you said, this conversation to end it, but it's never, ever going to end. And when I let everybody know who grew up in the projects and who know H.T. and Howard and, they're gone, but you're still here carrying on. I can't thank you enough, Tony.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your leadership, not by words, but by example, your proximity to our children, your motivation for our children, always fighting to ensure that all children get an opportunity to reach their fullest potential. Keep on keeping on, and I love you.
I love you more. God bless you. And continue the journey. I'll see you on the journey. God bless.